Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of Monday, March the 14th to order. I need an approval of the agenda, please. Motion made by Mr. Farnsworth, seconded by Mr. Mitchum. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. We're going to move on to our moment of reflection. Mr. Farnsworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. I've got a great kind of education story, so follow along with me. There was a teacher, he or she, they were working on math with 7-year-old John and asked John, if I give you one apple and one apple and one apple, how many apples will you have? Within a few seconds, John looked up and he said confidently, 4. The dismayed teacher was expecting an effortless correct answer, of course, 3. She was disappointed. Maybe John did not listen, she thought. She repeated, John, listen carefully. If I give you one apple and one apple and one apple, how many apples will you have? This time he hesitantly replied, 4. The disappointment stayed on the teacher's face, but she remembered that John likes strawberries. This time, with exaggerated excitement and twinkling in her eyes, she asked John, if I give you one strawberry and one strawberry and one strawberry, how many will you have? With a hesitating smile, John replied, 3. The teacher now had a victorious smile. Her approach had succeeded. She wanted to congratulate herself. But there was one last thing. Once again, she asked him, John, if I give you one apple and one apple and one apple, how many will you have? He looked at her and promptly answered, 4. The teacher was aghast. John, how? John, how? What are you talking about? She demanded. She was a little stern. She was a little irritated. What do you mean 4? In a voice that was low and hesitating, John replied, because I already have one apple in my bag. The moral of the story, when someone gives you an answer that is different from what you expect, don't think they are wrong. There may just be a different angle, something you hadn't thought of. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. Next on our agenda is the school highlights. Matt?
All right. Well, as always, I come bearing good news. All right. So let's start with our student recognition. Is Tatiana here? All right. You want to come on up? All right, so we want to congratulate her. She's from Somerville High School. She placed first in a statewide writing competition. She won the George Singleton Award for Fiction through the South Carolina Governor School for the Arts and Humanities. So some of the highlights, her short story received glowing praise as a sorrowful story possessing perfect pace from sentence to sentence. And she received a $200 gift card for placing first. Yeah. Great. And we are lucky to have Mrs. Tucker with us here today. She is her teacher. So we are very excited to recognize the excellence of our student and the educator who helped to accomplish this. So, all right. Do we want to get her, do you want to get a photo with her real quick?
Matt, can you quickly, if you weren't already going to, can we acknowledge her parents, I think, are here as well?
Oh, I would love to. Are her parents here? All right. Thank you so much. We're very honored to to recognize your amazing child. All right. All right. And so now we have the Junior Service League of Somerville. We were very fortunate to receive a donation from them for school supplies. And this year it totaled $17,556. So, yeah. Oh, sure, of course. And then just before I do that, in attendance tonight we have Carrie Lawson, the president of the group, Amanda Hughes, the president-elect, and Katie Eubanks with Fund Development. I would love to. It's a great number. So it is $17,556.74. You want to say a couple words?
Hi, I'm Carrie Lawson. I am the current president of Junior Service League for this league year. We have some really lovely ladies in our community. This is a women's organization. It's been around for about 33 years. We run the Ghost Walk in downtown Somerville and Scarecrows on the Square. We do PJs with Santa, and we also do Christmas trees on the square, and all of that money goes straight to DD2 and DD4 schools. And so if you see anybody in Junior Service League out in the community, please just thank them, because this is tireless effort on the part of about 35 of us to make sure that our schools and our kids in our community have a better future. So thank you.
Next on our agenda is public comments on agenda items, and I don't think we have any on agenda items. We don't have any on agenda items, so we're going to move on to our approval of the minutes. Board members, in your packets, you should have received the minutes for the regular meeting of February the 28th, called meeting of March 7th, March 8th, March 9th, and March 10th. If it's okay, if we could do those in open session. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, I need a motion to approve those. Motion made by Ms. Crosby. Do you have a second by Mr. Guthrie? Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is our superintendent's report. The state of the district, Mr. Pye.
A lot of good things happening, and I know a lot of us were so excited recently when we read headlines in the paper about a possible $4,000 proposed raise for teachers, all teachers, and it just sounded so wonderful. And I think a lot of celebrating was going on that finally our teachers were being recognized at the state level. But there was more to that story, and if you read the fine print, you would have gotten it. But obviously, there's a lot of misinformation out there on this proposal that's yet to be voted on, and we feel like that we need to inform our public, but most particularly our school family, exactly what it is they're proposing. Thank you. And at this time, Tina, if you will come up. She just got back from a conference of other CFOs in the state, and that's where they discussed this. And It's obviously a topic all over South Carolina. There's a lot of confusion, so they straightened that out, and she's going to give us this straight news tonight.
The straight news. I would like that, how you said that. So good evening, Chairman Hughes and board members and Mr. Pye. So as Mr. Pye said, it's been reported that the state will provide a $4,000 pay increase for all teachers. However, what actually came out of the House Ways and Means Committee, which was the budget that we talked about very briefly at our last board meeting, was for their FY23 annual appropriations budget, which was House Bill 5150. Proviso 1.3 states that the statewide minimum teacher salary schedule will be increased $4,000 to $40,000. So that's where the $4,000 number came into. Currently, Dorchester 2, our salary schedule starts at $39,723. So we're almost at the $40,000 anyways, which is good news. We're only $277 away from the minimum of $40,000. So we will be working with that $277 number increase to each cell, each step of the salary, the teacher salary scale, but it is not the $4,000 because we were already close to the $40,000, which was the minimum. If we were to go $4,000 for all of our certified teachers, that would be $7.2 million, and benefits on top of that makes $9.5. The state was not intending to fund that. Our allocation for Dorchester 2 was only $2 million above what they've been giving us in the past, so it wasn't their intent to fund us $4,000 for each certified teacher. I'm sorry, I had to be the bearer of bad news with that. Thank you for.
And it was just for teachers too. It was not for any of the other classified employees like we normally try to do. The state only recognizes their investment in the teachers, not understanding that teachers can't do their jobs, but the tremendous support staff that we offer with custodial, food service, maintenance, guidance counselors, nurses, all those folks, secretaries, all of the support cast that really makes things click in our schools, and they're never included at the state level. That's local for us to try to figure out.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Pye or for Tina? Nope.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, very
I'm sorry.
unfortunate.
I know. But what's new?
We were hoping. Next on the agenda is our personnel report. Board members, in your packets, you should have received the personnel recommendations and resignations for the 21-22 school year. Everybody okay with doing those at open session? Okay, I need a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do you have a second? Second by Ms. Crosby. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Next on the agenda is, under new business, is our 22-23 school calendar. Mr. Pye, are you going to?
School calendar.
And Matt Ken's right. Okay.
Yeah, Matt's got that.
All right, glad to be back up. All right, so we were very lucky to have a great calendar committee, and so that includes parents, teachers, administrators, and support staff. And that process kicked off around December and just recently wrapped up. And so just to kind of bear in mind kind of what process, or I guess parameters they had to work with. So the school year must have 180 instructional days for students and 190 days for teachers. The first day for students must be no earlier than the third Monday in August, which would be August 15th this year. And the calendar must include 10 teacher work days and staff PD days, with a work day generally scheduled near the end of each quarter, which is 9 weeks. And then schools must also be closed for the general election for the first Tuesday in November, which is November 8th, and that's, again, state law. And then we must maintain the 3 traditional days at Thanksgiving, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then school early release days and designated staff PD days are developed by the curriculum and instruction staff after the calendar is approved. And so as far as the process, we made sure that we worked with our key stakeholder groups. That would be obviously the cabinet, and then teachers, principals, PTAs, staff members, making sure we kind of go far and wide to make sure everybody's invested in this process. And so the district calendar committee develops one or more calendar proposals for the next school year. Let's see. But yeah, and then we also try our best to coordinate with our neighbors. So with Charleston County and Berkeley County and DD4 to make sure, within the best of our ability to kind of line up those key dates people are looking for. And then one change this week, I believe we're going to have, if you approve it, a full week for Thanksgiving, which would be a departure, I think, from the past couple of years. But yes, and then for the bell schedule, just so our families know, the proposed elementary time is 7:15 to 2:05. Middle schools would be 8:10 to 3 o'clock. And high schools, along with Rawlings Middle School and Givans, would be 9:10 to 4. But yeah, if you have any questions, I can try.
I've had this discussion before, being a former teacher. I don't think that in December, when we're out for 2 weeks and a half, that we should have a half day on the 7th. The kids need to be in school. Then you go over to the November. No, not November, excuse me, March.
Slowly.
And they're out again, and it's right there. You got 2 more days. I just think that, especially the one in December, Mr. Pye, if you're looking at the one in December, I don't think we need an early out on that month when you're already going to be out for 2 weeks. I mean, kids need to be in school.
They were trying to do one per month based on the workload for teachers so they could get all their paperwork in. A lot of them are finalizing the end of the 9 weeks for that, especially the high school teachers most of them give their exams ahead of time, and so we want to give them time to get all that stuff done.
But
that was the reason.
The 16th is a half day already.
What, December?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the kids to go home for vacation.
I know it, but I'm just...
That's so popular.
I mean, so they're in school 4, 5, 7 days for the whole month. I just think they need to be
7 school days the whole month?
Huh? In December, that means they're only in school, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days.
7, 8, 9.
Excuse me. They're in school for 10 days.
And a half.
10 and a half days.
But I don't know. I just think that when you're out so much that we could eliminate, and then you look at November, well, the 8th you have to take because of Election Day.
Lori, would you like to comment on that since your group did it? Teachers had tremendous say in this. They do the calendar every year. We don't have a dog in the fight. So
What?
this has been vetted so many times through the groups, and they've been pretty
corrected
consistent
it.
with this, but go ahead.
It is very difficult to find. We have gone from 11 or 12 early release days that we used to do down to 7 or 8. If we didn't do one in December, that means that November, December, and January, elementary teachers especially, would have no early release day planning. So that's 3 months straight. So we agree with you, Ms. Crosby, that it's difficult, but to put it in November when we were going to be out for a week at Thanksgiving, we haven't done one in January for the last 3 or 4 years because it was at a time we were having every week in January was only 4 days. We were really trying to look out for our teachers so that they could have the planning days without staying every day after school or having to do it at another time. So just a reminder that the elementary teachers only have 40 minutes for their planning, and by the time they walk their kids somewhere and come back, they a lot of times don't get 40 minutes. So that was the thought with the December 7th.
You know you're preaching to the choir, right?
I do.
I did that. I walked that up. I did that. But anyway, that was just my comment.
Thank you.
It doesn't look like to me that they have one every month anyway. I mean, I'm looking at this and they have one in August, then they don't have another one again until December, and then they have another one in March. So, I mean,
Right, because the
they're
October
going 3
the
and 4
October
months
one,
without having a half day.
Right, the October one is for their conferences. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Ashley?
Mr. Pye, I had a question about the start date. That I know that it's the law, that third Monday. But I'm just curious if we've ever tried to get any kind of waiver for that, because I know that is something that other districts have done. And I know, I mean, we've even got some districts in our state who've moved to more of a year-round type school, which I am certainly not suggesting. All I'm saying is that I think every year we run into a situation in December, especially with our high school students who are on that block scheduling, where we have to decide about when they will take their final exams. And so I know some years we have waited when they come back, which makes it difficult because that's a huge disruption. I know this past year we did it before they went out on the break, which was great for the kids, but very difficult when you come back, especially for the teachers, because they're struggling for things to do with these kids because they've pretty much finished up their coursework and had their EOCs or their finals. So I think if we were able to start a little bit later, it would help, or I'm sorry, a little bit earlier, it might help with that situation, just looking at trying to finish up the semester before the Christmas break, and by doing that...
Well, I wasn't aware that any district was getting permission to do it beforehand. I've been doing this for many, many years, but maybe it's possible. We hear so much out of Columbia, they're just not consistent, so anything's possible. I just know that's what the law says, and we've been following it every year. And of course, Ms. Rayner has handled this every year.
I mean, no, I
So she
do
would have
think
the
it's
background.
definitely
I don't know anything
a
else
law,
about it,
right.
except because I don't deal with the calendar very much. But Ms. Radcliffe, or any of y'all have any idea about the starting date? Because it would affect your high school students about why we could maybe go a week earlier and try to get the exams in. Okay. Is there any chance for remediation or whatever for kids who took the exam before Christmas and bombed it, and the teacher knows that they should do it here, they're going to lose credit for a course they've taken all semester, and maybe an issue? If we have those 4 or 5 days, to me it sounds like a great chance to do some tutorial type work, if nothing else, for unit recovery, credit recovery, or some kind of, extra activity that would involve them trying to get those 2 extra points to get to the 70 or whatever they're striving to get to.
Well, I also think that, I mean, it's a little bit frustrating that there's a law anyway, because I think the districts, I mean, everyone is different. From my understanding, the purpose of that law is for districts that have tourism and situations like that, which really isn't necessarily that huge of an issue here. So I think the autonomy should be, I mean, we should have the autonomy of the district to make that decision, what works best for our schedule, even if it's not moving it earlier. So I'm just curious about that waiver. And like I said, I've heard of other districts doing it. So
would you like for us to hold this to the next time and go ahead and let's just look at it?
Well, I'm interested just in information about it. It doesn't
I
mean
would
we
too.
have
I'm
to
curious.
just whether or not we do have any options. And, I don't know. If anyone...
Well, I think we ought to check to see if there's any options. There's no rush to do this. The only reason we're bringing it even now is that other districts have already announced theirs, and the daycares and all the people in town want to know, and parents, we're planning our vacation stuff, and we want to know what's going on with the calendar. So traditionally, that's what they do. It's a lot of pressure from outside groups, but I'd rather get it right. And if there's some leeway that the exams have really been the only issue for me all these 20-something years, is how can we have it beforehand, because it is a wasted time to think you're going to bring them back. Children are not going to study over the holidays. They're not going to be doing homework on Christmas Eve. I don't think so. They don't do it now on a regular night, let alone Christmas Eve. So I see what you're saying. I'd like to have them end it, go home like they do in college, and enjoy their break and get some relaxation, and the teachers too, so we come back refreshed to start the second semester. So I'd like to then hold that in the next meeting, and make sure we do research on that starting date. We can still use the same calendar. It's not reinventing it. Just can we move everything up to give us some more days first semester?
Yeah, but I think, yes, just finding out would be good information, and then you can see how it plays out, if it would be helpful, if it would work. But it would be nice to know if we do have any option there. Okay, thank you.
Everybody
When you
okay
find
with
out
that?
one that's doing it, you know I'll go for it.
Is everybody okay with holding it until the next meeting? Everybody good with that?
Yeah, and I would just be curious, because I am familiar with, I think, the districts that you're talking about that have looked at that waiver, gotten a waiver. But my understanding is that it is only the districts that have gone into more of a full year calendar. So my only concern, and I certainly think we can look into it, I think you'd probably have to have a really good, for lack of better words, extenuating circumstance to say we need to waive this requirement of the third Monday. And I don't know that we've got that.
Well, we were looking at the possibility of we did explore doing the more year-round one, like some of the districts in a part of the state. But we were really leaning towards what Charleston and Berkeley did. We have got to be regionally connected. The career school, I see him shaking his head, District 4, it's a nightmare on them when we have different calendars. So we almost have to have the same one. So we waited to see what they came up with first before we finalized ours. And we're all very close in our calendars.
Well, and maybe just let me ask this question. Let's say tomorrow we reach out to the State Department and they give some sort of indication that potentially you could move it back to, say, the 8th. Is there a will from the district? Would you, Mr. Pye, would your leadership team push for the date to be on the 8th, or is it a move?
As long as we can possibly shift things up without having to start from scratch, I think everything can just be moved forward. You still have the week at Thanksgiving. Maybe not. Maybe that's where it will come from to give you the extra days if you move it up. But I think if everything is moved up, what you do is move the ending of school up. And already we're ending it on June the 1st? And so, or the 2nd, which one? Second. And so maybe we've got that whole week to play with. What would be nice is if we were able to end it on May.
If you moved it back, Mr. Pye, you'd be able to finish before
26.
Memorial Day like we used to do.
That's what I'm saying, maybe before Memorial Day. That would work and build that week back in instead of after Christmas, before, and that would give us plenty enough days to do the exams.
What did we do, and forgive me just because I'm not looking at this year's calendar, for this year, did we end up pushing the summer back a little bit in this year? Are we already late in the summer this year?
It's about the same, just a couple of days. Every year it goes back and forth. Sometime before Memorial Day, sometime right after it. But it's close. Some districts are going, these districts you're talking about, they're giving 5 weeks off for this time period instead of the normal 8 or 9. And of course, there's a lot of learning loss, and that is a question of that. But then again, it hampers with staff development for teachers and people's just their vacation schedules. It tightens up the summer, and a lot of people, they don't like that because we're a very traditional area in the low country, and people like the 2 weeks winter holidays. They like the week at spring break. They just like that because it's what's always happened here for 100 years. So we try to keep it traditional as we can, but I think there's room to explore that since that seems to be where people are going. And just looking at it, apparently it looks like you're just moving everything up a week. We have to see how that looks.
Mr. Pye, if you moved it back that week, that makes you'll only be in school in December for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. Back to 7 days.
No,
Moved
you'd
it up
still
a
have all of December. You'd still get it on the 16th. You couldn't get it any sooner.
You wouldn't.
We're adding
But if you
days.
moved
That-
everything
that-
back a week,
yeah.
that doesn't move that up a week?
We take the first week of January and add it back to December, and then push everything up a week till you get back to August. That's how that works. If they will allow us without doing all the other stuff they demand you do, come 6 weeks or 9 weeks and take 2 weeks off, which is good, but that may be really hard to pull off.
Do we meet next week, I believe? We have a called meeting next week, next Monday?
We haven't set a called meeting yet.
Okay.
But yeah, the intention is to have one.
And
Couple
again, I
weeks.
think we're actually a little bit late in the year to put out our calendars. My only concern, folks,
Yeah, we are late.
I've actually gotten a lot of messages asking me because they're trying to plan trips and that sort of, and I get it. That's important stuff to families. So I just don't want to prolong it. So that's why I was thinking if next week, potentially, if we were meeting anyway, I just don't remember, then maybe this could be brought up. Because I think we'll know tomorrow. I think you're going to call the State Department. They're going to tell you pretty quick,
They'll get called.
yes, you can do a waiver, yes, or no, you can't. So.
And what would be conditions of the waiver? Then we can tell them what we think we can do, and would they let us do that?
Yep.
And
That's
you
my
never
only
know.
opinion, just maybe sooner than later on the calendar.
Mr. Farnsworth, you're right. We are going to have a few called meetings next week regarding the superintendent search. There is a possibility that we could add that to the agenda, if need be, to have that discussion. So, yeah, the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, we will have called meetings.
Monday.
So, I mean, if we want to do that, is that the will of the board, that we talk about this with the State Department between now and Monday and put it on Monday's agenda for the called meeting?
We'll have it prepared by then.
We'll need to hear from those people, too, what they found out.
Right, and then I would probably we'll have Matt, somebody will alert you what we are thinking and looking at. If it's a change, if it can't be a change, we'll tell you ahead of time and make it much easier so you kind of have the lay of the land and not be surprised. Even though some of it could be a good surprise, but we'll let you determine that.
Okay. Matt, if I could ask you to please go over the bell schedule again for me?
Yes.
I'm a little bit confused about that
Our papers had different times.
than what
Somebody
you
marked
than
them
what you
out
stated.
in ink, but they're different than what you stated.
Oh, and I apologize. I might have had an old copy. So, with that said, let me go to my packet. Thank you for that. And I apologize. Okay. Elementary is this lining up with what you have? 7:15 to 2:15?
Yeah.
That's
that's-
oh, perfect.
that's what we
Okay.
have, yep.
So yeah, elementary 7:15 to 2:15, middle school's 8:30 to 3:15,
Yes.
and then high schools along with Rawlings and Givens is 9:15 to 4 o'clock.
Yes. That's
Okay.
what we have.
And I apologize to the viewers at home if you were tuning in earlier.
All right, the middle school, they're saying it's 8:10 to 3:10.
Okay, then our paperwork all has different things
It's
on
all,
it. So
it's
I
all
guess we
three
need to-
dates are on here, we got all of them. We're just trying to figure out who's the real date. Would they please stand and tell the truth?
And correct me if I'm wrong, I
Fine,
think
Stan,
we're just
tell
trying to go back to the bell schedule we had prior to the COVID stuff,
Yes.
correct?
Right.
And yes, I believe that we had worked with principals, and so I'm hesitant if we have such different versions to settle on one.
Laurie, you and Ms. Ratcliffe had the correct ones. Would you please come forth and make sure everybody hears finally the correct version?
Elementary will be 7:15 to 2:05.
Well, that's what's up there.
That's not what we have on our papers, though.
I don't have one.
And then middle school is 8:10 to 3, and high school is 9:10 to 4.
Did you get a calendar?
9:10 to 4. Middle is what, 8:30 to
8:10 to 3.
8:10.
And that was pre-COVID
Matches the
bell
calendar.
schedule, wasn't it?
No, I believe they got out at 2:15, those elementary kids.
Right here.
At one time.
Miss
elementary got
Radcliffe,
out
was that pre-bell schedule, was that pre-COVID schedule, or is that different? Okay, because,
Yeah, see, somebody got the
Okay.
wrong calendar.
Elementary
It's the
at
wrong
one time
calendar.
was
That's what-
2:15.
I think we have the wrong calendar. It's right up there.
Yeah, but I think the copies that we have are incorrect. That's
Yeah,
why
these are
ours is
incorrect
different.
copies. So somehow this is one of the work copies, and I know we've changed this 30 times, so
That's why they're different.
that one up here is correct.
Oh, so I had it. Okay.
Yeah, that one is correct. We were listening to you, but I'm following you on here, and I'm going, I have none of those numbers.
Okay, good.
I
So,
need to turn around and see that.
okay, so I was right the first time then. Okay.
Your slide is different from our
Yes.
calendar.
Sorry for that confusion. So I think we're good.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is our Board Policy Committee, and that is Mr. Farnsworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've had a few good policy committee meetings so far this year. The one that I'm bringing before the board tonight is policy JLDBB, Juliet Lima, Delta Bravo Bravo, suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention. Just a very quick synopsis for the board. What that really looks at, we basically are solidifying that, that policy. You'll remember this one actually came before the board a few months ago, and we had some feedback and some information, so we took that back to the policy committee. So now we basically have solidified a lot of the wording in that policy. And the one, there was a discussion point that came up in the policy committee meeting talking about our crisis response manual. So I just want folks who are watching and folks that are here, that we do have a very in-depth, I think our district has gone above and beyond, well above and beyond in that crisis response manual that each of our schools and school leadership use in the case, and God forbid, you know, if this happens and when it happens, unfortunately, in our schools, they turn to that crisis response manual. We also had some discussion touching on in the student handbook, just kind of, again, solidifying the language, ensuring parents know and the community knows, here's how the district handles these types of events. So that, again, that's all coming out of the policy committee. So for the board, coming out of policy, again, policy JLDBB, as well as the accompanying rule JLDBB-R, looking for approval of the first reading of those policies tonight.
Okay, coming from committee, we don't need a second. So any discussion? Okay, all in favor for first reading? 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth.
Yep.
Okay, next on our agenda is unfinished business, and that is the update on the search for our new superintendent. As you all know, this has been a long journey that is not yet over. However, we are nearing the finish line. We began the journey with applications, resumes coming in, and we received several from all over. It was a nationwide search. We received them from as far as Washington State. We had them from all different states in around, and we narrowed that down to 9 potential semifinalist candidates, went through an extensive interview process, and I might say that during that interview process, you would have been amazed. The quality of people that we interviewed was unbelievable. we were kind of hoping that there was going to be a sure thing that was going to start eliminating people, but that never happened, which that's a good problem to have. So we were very pleased with the quality of candidates that we received. After going through 9 candidates, interviewing 3 a night for 3 nights in a row, we had some discussion and some deliberation. And I am going to ask the board at this time if there is a motion on the floor so that we can move forward.
Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion at this time that the board name as a finalist Dr. Brendan Hafner, Dr. William Shane Robbins, and Dr. Wesley Todd Timble as finalists for the position of superintendent.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Guthrie. Any discussion?
It was hard. We have great people. It was more than just several. We had almost 20. And we were told that they would be coming out of the woodwork because Mr. Pye has left a legacy for us, and it was going to be big shoes to fill, but people were going to be eager to get to do that, and they were. And every single person that came in, we thought, wow, how can you top that? But every single person gave a lot of tribute to our current superintendent, Mr. Pye, and realize these are going to be hard shoes to fill and an easy place to come into because of the job he has done. So I just wanted to say that much and just say they were all wows.
That's so good.
Anybody else have anything they want to add? Mr. Farnsworth?
Yeah, ditto to what Ms. Robinson said. I would just say that the breadth and the depth of the candidates that we saw is just, I'm excited for both the community, of course, our kids, our students are number one that are going to be the beneficiaries of it, as well as the district. You know, we all see this. I think we would all agree. This is our number one job. As a school board, there is nothing more important than finding the right person to take the helm. And that is, to be in our shoes, to be able to try and fill those shoes of Mr. Pye is an extremely difficult task. So I think the pressure is immense. But on the flip side of that, where I do take a lot of solace is once we started looking at these folks, once we really started digging in and asking very, very intense questions and going through that process, I am really very, very, very excited for our 3 finalists, because I'm telling you, and I hope you guys will take it to heart, when you see them and everybody right now is rushing to their phone to go look them up, I know, they are unbelievable. Dr. Robbins, Dr. Hafner, Dr. Trimble, and they're from a wide array and different philosophies and different ways of looking at things. But I will say at the end of the day, every single one of them is about students. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, every single one of them, their number one focus is the students and the people in our district. And so with any 3 of them, I don't know that you could go wrong. So again, I'm just very excited. I just want to reiterate, I'm excited for the community, our students, and our district to move forward in this process.
Yep, you're exactly right, Mr. Farnsworth. It was, we definitely, that was one of our major focuses, is to make sure, as we've always said, children were put first. Children will always be first. And I think every one of our candidates that were chosen, that they lived it, they breathed it, and it's this next step of the process is going to be just as tough, if not tougher, to move forward. But just to let you know where we're going from here. To begin with, I want to tell you just a little bit about the candidates. Dr. Brenda Hafner, she was named the lead administrator for Sumter School District in March. She is serving now as the superintendent there. She served as the chief of schools, assistant superintendent for leadership of school excellence for Sumter School District. And prior to that, her role was Chief of Schools Assistant Superintendent. She served as both a middle and high school principal in Richland School District 2. So she began. She was a teacher. She began as a teacher. She's worked her way up the ranks to now superintendent. And we were looking for those kind of qualities. Somebody that could relate to the teacher, that could relate to the principal, that also could relate to a superintendent or had the qualities of a superintendent. So we were looking for all of that in our candidates. Dr. William Shane Robbins, he has served as a superintendent for Kershaw County School since 2018. Prior to that, he served as a superintendent for Mount Vernon Community School Corporation in Fortville, Indiana for 3 years, and the superintendent for Northwestern Consolidated School District in Fairland, Indiana for 3 years. He also served as superintendent for Monroe Central Schools in Farmland, Indiana for 4 years. He served as a principal, assistant principal, athletic trainer, and a classroom teacher. So he had all of those as well. Dr. Wesley Todd Trimble serves as an executive area director for high school division for Orange County Public Schools in Orlando, Florida. He's held this position since 2021, and prior to this, he was the Executive Area Director for the Minority Achievement Office for Orange County Public Schools. Now, serving in his capacity, he is responsible for 22 schools in Orange County, Florida. He has all of the responsibility, basically similar to superintendent. Their school system is just so big there, they have to divide it into groups. So he's serving in the capacity of a superintendent just under a portion of their school district. So that's just a little bit about our candidates, but we will be beginning the rest of our search or a continuation of our search next week, the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Each one of our candidates will come into the district and spend the day in the district by themselves. So we'll have one candidate on the 21st, one on the 22nd, and one on the 23rd. They will come in and they'll begin with meeting with Mr. Pye and district office personnel. And then they will go in our district and meet with or speak with our teachers, view our schools, have lunch with our children, come back to the district office at 6 o'clock that evening. We will have a meet and greet for the public. It'll last approximately 45 minutes to an hour. So everyone out there will have the opportunity to come in and meet the potential candidates or the candidates, potential superintendent, and just talk to him and find out what you think are some important qualities that they have to be our superintendent, to fill these big shoes. So I didn't say big feet, I said big shoes. So then after that, they will go into, at 7:30 that evening, they will go into another interview. This will be their second interview. At that interview, we'll get a little more up close and personal. We know what their qualifications are. We know what their background is at this point from their previous interview. So we'll get a little up close and personal with them and make sure, which is a very important part, that they are a good fit for our school district, as well as that they are a good fit for our community. We need to make sure that one of the requirements that we're going to require is that they move in our county. We want them living in our county because we don't feel like you can truly be a part of the community if you're not vested in the community and you're going to the same grocery stores and going to the same churches. We believe that brings investment in the community and our children, and so that's going to be one of our requirements, is that they move in the county. Following that, we have yet another thing for them to do, and they don't, just so you know, I'm sure they're probably listening right now, and they don't have any idea that this is going to be happening, so they're learning this at the same time y'all are. So following that, on the 28th, which will be our next board meeting, we are having them to come in person and present a 10-minute presentation 45-day plan, what they plan to do their first 45 days on the job as superintendent of DD2. So, and then we'll go from there and go into deliberation that evening, and we plan to have a called board meeting the following Monday to announce the superintendent. So that will give us a week to do any kind of research that we feel that we've left undone, and then we will make a decision on the following Monday in a called board meeting. So we still have a ways to go, guys, but I think we've so far everything has been great, and we've had some really good candidates, and just really been blessed to be fortunate to have all of these people that were so interested in applying. And I think every one of them made a comment about, such as, who wouldn't want to come to DD2? Do you know you are the leading district in the state? Everybody wants to come here. Everybody talks about coming here. And when they come into our town, they love our town. They love our community. They've each come in and they've toured the town. They've eaten in our restaurants. They've spent time in the town without us or without us even knowing they were doing this, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. So when we told them the requirement was they were going to be required to move here, absolutely not a problem. We would have it no other way. That's exactly where we want to be. Mm-hmm. So I think lots of good things are happening, and looking forward to the next steps, and want to just congratulate the three that were chosen in the finalists, and look forward to working with them, and also want to thank the candidates that made the semifinals, and the ones who even just applied. Like I said, the decisions were really tough. There were a lot of close people who applied and that interviewed. So, and we were just very fortunate to have that problem, if you want to call it a problem. So, but anyway, now that I think the hype of this meeting is gone, everybody knows who they are now. We're going to move on to the next thing on our agenda. We do have to vote on that first. Sorry about that. I was about to jump the gun, but we do need to vote on that. So I need to vote on the motion and the second that was made. Ms. Crosby made the or Ms. Robinson made the motion. Ms. Crosby seconded the motion. So all in favor? 7-0. Thank y'all very much. Now we're going to move on to the committee reports. Board Facilities Committee, and that is Ms. Crosby.
This facility committee did meet. We have a study that we had done about a year and a half ago, and we've looked at the needs and the wants of the different schools. Tony is going through and talking to each of the principals. I think y'all are supposed to send information into him, and we're going to narrow that down to the best of our ability and get the best dates possible, and we should be visiting the schools very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crosby. Any questions for Ms. Crosby? Nope. Okay. All right. Next committee report is our Dorchester II Education Foundation. Ms. Wimberly.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Okay, so I have an update on our big upcoming event known as the Big Event that the foundation is excited to be hosting on March 26th. Ticket sales are ongoing, and our executive director, Mr. Ralph Hayes, and our board have been very busy working to secure sponsorships. As of right now, we have secured $55,500 already in sponsors. We have sold right at about 300 of our 400 tickets. And so that's about 75% of the ticket sales. And we do intend for the event to sell out. So if you would like to go and you are putting off buying your ticket, I encourage you to go ahead. You can do that online at the DD2foundation.org. Oh, and I see, thank you, Lee has put up the flyer for us. So it's got all the information on it. And then just to tell you a little more about it, in case you were on the fence, Tom Crawford has been secured as our auctioneer, and that is very exciting. And I'm going to give you a little preview here of some of our auction items. We have a live auction and a silent auction. So 4 floor tickets to the Miranda Lambert and Little Big Town concert, a Costa Rica villa, 6 nights for 8 people. I know. Pro chef and wine pairing personal dinner for 8 people, a NASCAR driving experience, custom handmade fire pit, Sonoma Inn and wine tours with air travel, 3 nights for 2 people. This sounds amazing. Sunday supper with live music at Hickory Bluff Berry Farm for 30 people. Jackson Hole Lodge and wildlife tour, 3 nights for 2 people. This one, Argentina wing shooting. Wow. Paradise in Panama, 6 nights for 8 people, and 3 VIP gold packages, floor seats for Kenny Chesney. So that, if you weren't tempted before to join us, now I know you have to be. And then there's a whole list, too, of silent auction items, which are also amazing. Chick-fil-A tailgate, Oakley sunglasses. We're going to have a signed Shane Beamer football, handmade sweetgrass basket. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff on here. And, lots of great stuff. And if you're not interested in any of that, which I don't know how you couldn't be, but it's going to be delicious food and great company. It really is always a very fun event. And as you already know, the proceeds go to benefit our schools, our staff, and most importantly, our children. So I would just like to encourage you to please join us at this event. It's a great time. And I also would like to just extend my heartfelt thanks and gratefulness from the entire board to Mr. Ralph Hayes and the foundation board for working so diligently to put this great event together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wimberly. Okay, next on our agenda are public comments, and I have a few of those. So we're going to begin with Jason Brockert.
Good evening, Madam Chair, DD2 Board, Mr. Pye. As always, thank you for the work that you're putting in. It's really good to hear about the efforts on the search for a new superintendent. I think we'd all agree that there's a lot of groundwork laid, and whoever's coming in is going to be coming into some good hands. What I do want to reiterate is that with the upcoming year coming to an end, I mean, we're already getting to the finish line. The following year, what I got looking at earlier today was the teacher vacancies for DD2, which is posted on the district. And if you look at the current year's vacancies versus the upcoming year's vacancies, I mean, it's glaring. So I don't have the transparency to see what the actual numbers are, but it just a click between tabs can show you what we're looking at now and what we're looking at next year is not a good situation. So we've been back and forth with all the COVID stuff. We've had 7 different reopening plans, and I get it, it's been changing, there's different iterations. So what I'm really looking forward to seeing is a retention plan, a build us back up kind of plan. Now, there's stuff that's going on in the House and Senate, the $4,000 teacher raise. We all understand there's a lot more going on behind that, and that's not in the board's hands. It's the day-to-day stuff. Teachers overwhelmingly want to teach because they want to teach. Yes, they also need to be fairly compensated. But it doesn't matter how fairly somebody's compensated if their daily job is insanely stressful. I've worked poorly paid jobs that were enjoyable, and I've worked well-paid jobs that were not enjoyable. And I can tell you, I'd much rather work the poor paid job that's enjoyable. So it's the day-to-day stuff that I think the board can have a hand in trying to make better. The amount of support services, the amount of support personnel, the things that you put in place to support the teachers, right? Children first. But the children cannot be taught without teachers. They can't be handed back and forth between classrooms because there aren't enough subs. They can't be forced into rooms that are just overcrowded and the teachers are just trying to maintain order in class, right? So children first. They need all of this to support them. So one of the things that was talked about earlier, and I understand you can't just do this on the fly. There's a lot of stuff that goes in work with the calendar. You have committees and teams that are putting in input about what the calendar looks like. The thought of doing a year-long calendar is very appealing to a lot of people. I think it should have more discussion, not for this year, but for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brockert. Next up is Ken Greenstreet.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Quick side note, my kids are not a fan of exams after Christmas or the dead time that happens sometimes at the end of a quarter if they have exams before. So, familiar comments, Constitution. Today I saw in the media a woman that was on Red Square in Moscow. She expressed her opposition to the war in Crimea, opened up a sign, it was in Russian, probably said no war, just 2 words on it. Within 5 seconds, guys in riot gear hauled her off, picked her up off the ground, and put her in the paddy wagon. And I looked at that, and my first thought was, thank goodness we have the Bill of Rights. My in-laws are German, they live in Frankfurt, and I would say in that part of the world there's a worry, at the very least, and the further east you go, a fear of what's going to happen next. If you look at NATO and how they're reacting, some of it's probably political, but there's obviously a war of what may happen. Now, I ask you to think of the freedoms that we have. If the Constitution goes away, I would submit to you that the light of freedom goes out in the world, because NATO means America. If NATO's moving, that means America's moving. And if America can't move anymore, the light of freedom, it goes out. Now, the framework that gives us that ability and those freedoms is the United States Constitution. And I can't speak for the whole district. I can't speak for myself. Graduated Stall High School in 1984, never read the Constitution in its entirety. I've got 2 kids, one's a senior at Ashley Ridge and the other one's a 10th grader, never read the Constitution ever in public school, ever. They've studied it, but they've never read it word for word, and it's only 20 pages long. The Constitution, and they've never read it. The state has a high school exit exam that they're supposed to take, so I asked my son, the senior, what kind of questions were on it. And he said, well, let's see here, who was the first president of the United States? That's great. I said, did they ask you anything about the Three-Fifths Compromise? Because we've talked about it quite a bit at home, and that phrase is often used to label the Founding Fathers as racist. But if you get into it and you ask yourself, what would have happened had it been a 5/5 compromise and the South could have had all the representatives that they wanted in Congress? It's not out of the question to think that slavery could have lasted into the 20th century. That's not taught in school. That's all I have. I'm just asking you to require that the Constitution be read. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greenstreet. Next up is Brad Davis.
Superintendent Pye, Chairman Hughes, and board members, thank you for having me here tonight. One quick thing before I speak on what's going on in the career school. The calendar alignment with DD4 is really critical for us. If you all start a week earlier than they do, we wind up running out of instruction days for the students and somebody gets cut. So just, we please ask that you try to align with DD4. That's really important for us. What's going on at the Dorchester County Career and Technology Center right now? Lots of great things. We've got approximately 500 students that we touch each day for a half a day that are all students and teenagers from Dorchester County. Approximately 10% of those students are engaged in business learning activities where they're actually spending part of their instruction time at a business, interning, or doing an apprenticeship, which is pretty exciting. And we last week had it was a Women in Construction conference, and we did some virtual learning and some in-place learning, and we worked with all of the middle schoolers. We find that it's really critical to get to the middle schoolers so they can make career decisions on what their electives are going to be and attend the career school. And when we did that, the DD2 middle students participated, and they did worked with partners, which was Palmetto chapter of the National Women in Construction Association and the Somerville Chamber of Commerce. And they did a live, virtual live thing, but the students were live, and had discussions with women that were in construction fields and talked about how they got in and what the requirements are. And then after that, they were divided up with business partners and instructors, and they were given a challenge, and they were given a styrofoam plate, 20 pieces of spaghetti, a yard of string, a roll of tape, and one large marshmallow. And they were challenged to build the tallest structure that they could with those things, and then an award went to the group that built the tallest one. So that's just the kind of engagement we have. We appreciate you all letting us have access to the students in middle school and work with them and show them the wonderful things going on that are available for them at the career school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Okay, next I need a motion to go in executive session for personnel matter regarding hires.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, second by Mr. Farnsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. And we will be returning after the executive session for any actions necessary. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great evening. Okay, I need a motion to go back into open session.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Mitchum. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Do we have a motion on the table?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the personnel recommendation as presented in executive session.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the personnel recommendations presented in executive session. Do I have a second? Second by, motion was made by Mr. Farnsworth, seconded by Mr. Guthrie. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, second by Mr. Mitchum. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night.